My name's Amanda and I'm an addict. I was just thinking, really, drugs was a huge part of my life. There wasn't any area of my life that wasn't connected to drugs, really. And, I used drugs for a really long time. And I think, most probably the first 10 years of me using drugs was really good fun. And I really enjoyed it. And I think I was pulled into drugs, really, just because I was always attracted to the dark side. I remember reading Christiana F. when I was about 13 and thinking, God, yeah, I want to be like her. And I was brought up in a really horrible coastal town, and we used to get really bored and do things like put a wallet with a bit of fishing wire and chuck it out on the street, have a fiver in it, and then when somebody'd go down, you pull the wire a bit, and it was just, we didn't have anything better to do, so we'd just take drugs and be stupid. And I've always been a real sort of hedonistic person. Both my parents are party animals, and I think that's, at 13, 14, I thought, yeah, that's all I want to do. I just want to be wild, crazy, and and it was always that thing that I took things to extreme. No matter what group of friends I was with, I was always being the one that had to be that much more over the top or that much more wild. And I liked that role. I felt very comfortable in that role. And, there were lots of sort of funny, mad experiences that happened to me, which made it all not seem like it was a life-threatening problem. I did lots of mad things. I was always drawn towards sort of rebellious groups of people. I had years of living on a bus and having a sound system and putting on parties, and I'd do stuff. I remember being at this party and this guy said to me, you look really dirty, come and have a bath in my farmhouse. And I went, yeah, right, I'll come round later. And I left with this guy and we got into the farmhouse, we got into the bath, and there was a knock on the door, and I went to the door and there's a little farmer standing there going, what are you doing in my bathroom? And I said, isn't this Welsh Michael's house? He said, no, it's the next farmhouse down on the right. And I just think, fucking hell, how did I walk into this guy's house, get in his bath? And that sort of stuff followed me. For the first 10 years, I had no regard for other people, I had no respect for myself or for others. I remember being in Spain once and seeing this guy on a motorbike. I came out of this club and I said, oh, give us a ride on your motorbike. 80k later, down the motorway, sparkly bikini, earrings banging in the face, no money on me, hire car back at the club, thinking, how the fuck did I get here? And that pattern followed me. I'd always end up in these situations thinking, God, this is really out of order. And it was always just down to me. I was attracted to the madness from a really, really young age. And I made a point of always being right in the middle of the madness as well. And criminality came to me very, very young. I remember my mum finding my diary when I was about 14, and I think I was selling a bit of homegrown at school, and she found that diary a few months ago and gave it to me, and I had all these codes in my diary, like 8th of G, green, and just, and it was just that thing that I was very caught in that lifestyle. And for quite a few years, I just thought, this is great. I am so cool. And I went to a school where there were lots of sort of quite, together people. And I loved the fact that I wasn't together. And I made a point of just causing trouble and just being very zany and not the normal sort of square type of person. And but my addiction was growing. I left home very young and I had a money addiction. That was the other thing. I had this thing with money, that if I had loads of money, I'd be all right. And so I left home really young and got a business, had a little illegal business as well, and managed to get a house. And, and it was all about the money. And I think in a way, my money addiction stopped my drug addiction from sort of setting off really quickly, because I was always, worried about, whether I'm going to spend my savings. And the drugs changed, starting off with party drugs. I was always very anti-gear. There were junkies in my hometown. I was like, oh, I wouldn't want to do that. And, I used to do things like black bombers, and my mates used to do over pharmacists. So we'd get picked up from school with the DDA box and, go, oh, what's this? And just take it. And but as I got slightly older, the drugs started to change and the people started to change. And I did lots of geographicals all over the country and, and always scamming. I was always the one for a shortcut and a scam. If it wasn't, selling drugs, I'd be growing weed or shoplifting, refunding, you know, anything to earn a bit of money, but not legally. You know, I remember getting nicked in Victoria actually with a wig on, and these CID had been waiting for me because I used to go in and nick all the coffee from there. This is right at the end of my using. They said, we've been waiting for you for a week, and I thought, fuck, I'm just a coffee thief, you know, with a wig on. And it was just that thing that I've just, you know, I never ever wanted to be straight, normal. I just wanted to be, you know, I had that real desire just to be out there and not conform. I guess that's what it was. And, you know, I was involved in this free party scene, and I loved that because it was like this big movement of people, and I was part of something, and it felt really happening, and that went on for a few years, and then the E's disappeared, and it all went a bit weird, and people started doing crack, and I'd started using gear, and things just got darker. You know, I originally, I mean, now as a person, I'm quite a light, funny, positive person, but I just think drugs eat away at that. And by the time I reached 23, 24, I was really heavy. I was really weighed down with the drugs and the people that I was hanging out with. And, you know, and nastier things had started to happen. You know, people had died in my flat, and I remember getting nicked on a manslaughter charge because this guy had given a hit to, and he only had one arm. You know, it's like, how unlucky is that? And I think I was about 25, and I told my mum I had a drug problem, and this was like a really big thing for me because I'd been very duplicitous and shown one face to one lot of people and then another to, you know, so people never really knew who I was. And to actually say to my mum, you know, I've got a drug problem, I need some help. But I was so, you know, I've always been very, very arrogant, and, you know, like, I know best. Even in treatment, I remember going, I know. Everything they said you've got to do, I'd go, I know. You know, and my mum said to me at 26, you know, you need to get some help here. You really need to get some help. And I was like, no, I'll be fine. I can sort this out. And I really believed in that moment that I was stronger than addiction. I didn't comprehend how fucking powerful this disease is. And hence, I went on to use for about another 5 or 6 years. I started injecting, which was something I never said I'd do. You know, the goalposts got moved continually. Most of my friends that I grew up with and that I'd had that sort of cared for me, I moved away from them. I ended up back in London, and I ended up homeless. And in South London. And when I look back, you know, it's like the epicentre. Brixton's like the epicentre of the street drug thing. And you know, and I'm really glad I ended up there, because the type of person I was, I had so much attraction to drugs. There was such a big, strong pull for me for drugs that, you know, I had to go to that level, you know. And the last few years were really, really difficult. And, you know, the only way I can really describe it is like, you know, it was like I was just a husk. There wasn't anything left of me. I had this little seed of who I am today inside me, and my body had just reduced to, you know, a really sad state, and I was shoplifting in the daytime. The refunding game had long gone. You know, I was too rough for doing refunds, and I'd work the street at night. And I remember when I first started doing that, actually, you know, I just didn't know what I was doing, and kissed the guys, didn't ask for the money first, you know, didn't understand about the etiquettes of being a working girl. And in fact, at the time, I sort of thought, this is really cool. You know, again, that Christiana F stuff, I thought, this is me taking my power back, you know, yeah, right. And it just, that lifestyle just... for me, to stop using drugs, it was more the lifestyle that got to me than the drugs. You know, I ended up injecting lots of drugs every day, not feeling them, suffering lots of abuse. You know, I remember getting strangled by this punter in this bin shed in Brixton, and coming round with him, robbing my money, you know, coming round to sort of consciousness with my neck really hurting, thinking, I don't want this fucking life anymore. I don't want to be this person. And coming out of this bin shed, and you know, it was just one of those moments I just wanted someone to give me a hug and say, you're going to be all right. And there wasn't anyone in my life at that point that could do that. And you know, and I went back onto the street corner, and I got on with the night. You know, I did what I had to do. I had lots of criminal convictions for shoplifting, theft, all of that sort of stuff, soliciting, and they were building up. I'd breached probation, and my fear was that I couldn't handle going to Holloway. I didn't think I would be able to cope in prison, and you know, to be honest, that's what pushed me into recovery. So I made a decision and went into treatment. And I haven't really looked back. I think some people take to this program like ducks to water, or you struggle with it. And I've been a duck to water. I find this program very, very simple. You know, I've never stopped doing the simple, basic things. I give a lot away. You know, I make sure that I am there for the newcomer. I always give my phone number to people that I haven't seen before, females. I'll always give, you know, a smile, a nod of encouragement. I think that's so important. I think we forget that. We get stuck in our little cliques in our meetings, and we forget about the new people. And, you know, someone died last week from this fellowship, someone that I got clean with, you know, and just those moments of when I realised how precious this gift is. You know, it is more precious than anything in my life. You know, I always said that, I said to you, you know, I always wanted to be part of something, and NA has given me part of something which is really real and genuine. You know, I never had that. You know, I was part of lots of different things before, but I never had that moment of really feeling connected to something that could support me no matter what. And, you know, I felt that with this fellowship. I've never really looked back in terms of using. I don't think about using. Even when the shit really hits the fan, drugs does not come into the equation for me. I know it's going to not make anything better. You know, some of the best things I've done in recovery, when I was 1.5 years, I gave up my incapacity book, which I'd had for about 10 years. You know, to give that up, do the right thing, become honest, get a job, you know, starting on really shit money, you know. But I got a lot from that. You know, the humility to go back to the beginning and say, I don't know how to do this, please help me. Asking for help is one of the most important things that I still have to do. I'm getting better at it. You know, the first few years I found that so difficult. You know, I changed sponsors about 3 months ago, and my sponsor is, you know, within 3 months, I feel really connected to this woman because I want it. I want help, and I know I need support. You know, my step work has shown me who I want to be. Some days, like yesterday, I had such a horrible day. I woke up with a really bad mood. The council are doing my kitchen. They've been there for 2 weeks. They haven't done a fucking thing, right? I'm sure they just wait for me to leave for work, and then they disappear. And, you know, halfway through the day, I was thinking, who the fuck is this person? Because I was pushing people out of the way in the street. I was being really rude. You know, and I have those sort of days where recovery, Amanda, is miles away, and I go back into that, you know, my old defects, and but what I have is a desire and a willingness to keep moving forward, you know, and I recommit to my recovery regularly, because I know, you know, it feels like it gets harder the longer you've been around for me, you know. It feels like my feelings get more intense, other stuff comes in, you know, I think I've dealt with issues and then they come back up. And, you know, there are certain areas of my life where I'm so organised and I'm so manageable. And I surprised myself. When I first got clean, I just thought, I'm not going to be able to do this. You guys can do it, but I'm never going to get it. And, you know, but in some areas I excel. I do really well. And then there's other areas in my life where I'm still like a baby. I'm still like, how the hell do you do this? And that's okay, you know. I think the most important thing for me is to be gentle on myself. I am so hard on myself, and to take care of myself. You know, all that basic stuff, eating well, looking after myself, you know, all the sort of, you know, the step 3 stuff really, of having faith that my God will look after me. God has not let me down. You know, I've come through a hell of a journey to get to this point, and there'll be many points when I was using where I should have died and I didn't, you know, and I think, why would God let me down now, you know? And you know, I love recovery. I love this fellowship. I enjoy all the service I do. Service to me is the backbone of my recovery. And, you know, and the people that I see doing lots of service are the ones that stick around and get well. And I think I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for letting me share.